created my own little algorithms to do one thing or another, like disease states, a mortality algorithm. And
I think you will have a whole levels of robotics, that humanoid robots or non-humanoid robots, whatever the case is.
But the one that I really gravitated towards was Alteryx. Low code, no code, business intelligence stuff, data science, machine learning, things like that.
Audio, the text, and then everything's big metaverse buzz. Everybody knows the metaverse.
Another week of AI.
Nick, tell us, give us some of the best practice that people should be aware of to have their, I guess, IT system and AI system be secured.
Oh gosh,
where do you start? Right?
Yeah, where do we start?
How much time do you have?
The Cloud Security Alliance just released their AI controls matrix, and it is mind-blowing. 243 controls, I think 17 categories.
That's more than NIST.
Yeah, it's more prescriptive than NIST is. There is a mapping to NIST. So, but yeah, if you want like very specific guidance on how to protect your AI systems, go look up the Cloud Security Alliance AI controls matrix. It's free. You just have to create an account. You can download it. It gives you everything. That team did a terrific job at putting that together. And I'm saying this after having reviewed 42001, the NIST AI Risk Management Framework, the MITRE Atlas framework, OWASP Top 10 for LLMs. Like, I've been through all of them, and the one that brings it home and it's kind of like, do one, check all kind of mentality. I would go with the CSA AI controls matrix. Cybersecurity, I'm going to need we're going to need a whole few sessions on that. But yeah, I would say, just practically speaking, as a consumer, be careful what you tell whatever AI you're using. A lot of them are using advanced memory systems now. ChatGPT is very normal for it to store memories. It only stores up to 100. So that's good news. There's a limit. Others have other sort of memory systems, but if you're generally using like the user interface that's consumer facing, your data can be used to train the model. It's very normal. It's called reinforcement learning through human feedback. That's how these model providers get free, like feedback and training, is through your use, and you're probably paying for paying for an account. Now, with the White Glove AI team, we have the Teams version. And then if you're using their API, like if you're building an app and you're using their API, they say, and I'm speaking only for OpenAI, they say that they don't use your data for training, but you just kind of have to believe them. There's no way to audit them or test that.
Yeah. Arvind, you're next.
I think cybersecurity, I'm going to give a little different perspective here, right? So there's a lot of tactical elements that Nick covered, so I don't want to go through that. But when you got to look at cybersecurity in two different angles. So when you're looking at something like Zero Trust Framework, enterprises look at cybersecurity differently than consumers. For instance, I'm a consumer. I use ChatGPT every day. Some fundamental hygienes I know not to do is I know not to use any of my clients' data or information that they might send me because I have an NDA, non-disclosure agreement with them. I can't just go and upload it in GPT, right? A few years ago, or actually 1 or 2 years ago, one of the developers, so a lot of the big AI development shops and enterprises, they have a team of 100 plus data scientists who are constantly training and retraining, right? So as a part of that, one very large Fortune 100 company gave access to ChatGPT and Gemini to these 100 plus data scientists. Some idiots actually took sensitive data and they started uploading it to GPT to see what insights and inputs they get, which it does really well. But the problem then is some other part of the world actually started asking random questions like, hey, what is this company up to? All of a sudden, GPT started spitting out all the sensitive information about that company where the data scientists are sitting in other part of the world. So essentially, consumers and enterprises are connected in this world of AI. It's very important to
Is this
differentiate.
is this the part that you say, ay, 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 ay?
I wish you have that little Home Depot button, man. That's easy. Like that. Yeah. So I think it's these basic hygienes you as a consumer, you have to start thinking, understanding, and putting together. Now, on the enterprise, it's a whole different story, right? Every data you're using, every insights you're building, every agent you're building has to have enterprise robustness and cybersecurity. For example, something as simple as the NIST framework, GDPR, CCPA, those are all proven methodology. A lot of security consultants out there who can do that. But every company wants its data to be protected because it's a reputation risk to its brand. So when it's that important now of AI hallucinations and things like that, cybersecurity is a very, very important topic in every boardroom conversation. So much so that if you understand what Nick was talking about earlier, all these rules and regulations, of course, you can be a valuable asset to very large enterprises and even in some cases, consultants like us, where we hire these contractors, we hire these cybersecurity experts to be a part of our projects and solutions because it's that important in every project we're doing at this point. So I hope that gives a difference between an average consumer like you and I using our tools we have every day, right, to an enterprise and how they think enterprise grade.
Yeah, well, I think we kind of have to go back to that basic of, I guess not all users are taught this way, but I started off as an ethical hacker, right? So first thing you got to understand is everything basic about cybersecurity. And cybersecurity is protecting data. It's just another way of calling data security, but we call it cybersecurity. How do you protect something so vast, like the size of the earth, right? You can't. All you can do is protect this pipeline that data is traveling through. So you're not really protecting the data pipeline. You're protecting that data that travels through that pipeline, because it's really hard to cover pipeline that goes all around the earth, right? Bottom of the ocean is not a place to protect your data, right? You got to protect the data on the end user side. If an end user has the mindset to say, look, there is no really difference between enterprise data and my data, right? If I wouldn't do that to myself, my family, my kids, I shouldn't do it to my enterprise, right? So you really have to have the end user's mind shifting away. And I'm getting to a point, actually, I'm trying to make about why cybersecurity is far more important it is today than even 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Like today, I cannot emphasize with enough matrix, which I'm about to give, that cybersecurity is just as important. And I'm talking about you really have to label cybersecurity in a whole nother level. Like say, for example, just jokingly, I would say like, it's like protecting your face. You don't want to get slammed by anything. You really want to protect your face. Like that's how bad cybersecurity space is. So I kind of want to walk down that alleyway of what's happening today with AI and cybersecurity is that, listen, the fundamental is like this. If you have CIA, which is confidentiality, integrity, and availability, right? This is not a new concept. It's been around for a long time. But with AI, you no longer have confidentiality that we used to have. If you don't have confidentiality, integrity of that data goes away. Now you don't know if that data is true or not, because there's a difference between ground truth and the IT system truth, right? And then availability of it. I don't care how available that data is if it doesn't have integrity or confidentiality, right? So the CIA triad that AI, all the data is based off, you really have to think about that as if I put this out in front of ChatGPT, confidentiality goes away. There's no protecting it. Arvind just gave the case point to that on the other side of the world, somebody's going to look it up and somebody's going to find it, right? Because the models are being trained using RLHF, which Nick mentioned. Look, RLHF is just a cheaper and easier way to do fine tuning. The fine tuning that they OpenAI would never even conceive of the thing like, this is a giant system. We cannot fine tune it ourselves. So let's do RLHF, let the customer figure it out and fix it for us. Look, I'm not here to, I just can't blame anybody for that because that's just a natural thing. But the end users are not ready for what OpenAI just opened up for us, right? End users didn't have that perspective of CIA, right? If they did, and this is my point again, is that today you need cybersecurity education and training more than you needed it 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Because I guess my personal perspective here is that I was with CompTIA, which is a global certification body, and we wrote their first security AI certification from the scratch, right? So there was 10 of us in the subject matter experts. They all came from globally. We went to Chicago, we wrote the test, and I feel bad for myself because I am a subject matter expert of both cybersecurity and AI, and I was getting blasted with information that I thought I would never come across, right? Because it was just so much depth of it, right? The technicality just keeps going. Because you think programming is hard, trying to memorize all these things that are happening in cybersecurity space and how many ways hackers are hacking into systems, right? Like that is unbelievable amount of information that we have to really be aware of. So these end users, I really feel bad for them because I'm an end user and I have my personal problems that I might not be thinking about integrity of my data, right? So I guess the data points that I want to really push forward here is that we used to talk about millions of security events per day in all systems, right? Actually, billions of them happens, but let's just say AWS, for example. Back in 2024, they started the year off with 150 million security events per day.
Wow.
So, wow, that's a lot of number. And I said, that's not possible, is it? Well, it is possible because that's how many endpoints you have in your system. And they all have security events that are happening where some of them are actual hackers that are just trying to break in randomly, right? 150 million security events. Well, what did we end up with end of 2024 within just that 1 year? 750 million events per day, right? So what are we trying to do here? We're trying to educate the end users not to defend ourselves against all the attacks, but just those common sense ones that we can say, you know what, out of all the attacks, I'm probably 1% possibility of being actually a victim of those attacks, right? Your attack is happening. You just don't know it. There's a ways to figure out how many attacks are coming your way to your system every day, but you don't want to find out because you'll feel paranoid after a while, realizing that how many attacks are coming your way. Because there's a ways to check those, right? People don't track it, but if you track it, all of a sudden you become so paranoid that you're like, I'll stop tracking, right? So these the end users are your way of preventing this possibility of you being attacked or taken over by, right? So even if the chances are 1%, how do you minimize that 1% down to a point of just saying there's no defense anymore, it's deflection now, right? You have to start deflecting these threats because they're coming your way and they're randomly trying to get into your system just to check you out and say, is this even worth going into, right? Because enterprises get attacked one way, private devices get attacked another way, but they're all just trying to see how much money do you have? What sort of value do you bring for these bad guys to, make some money off of you, right? Artificial intelligence opened up a whole nother door of conversation. And my God, I can see Irvin and Nick is going like, yep. Yeah, he's opening up a whole nother door for that.
A month ago, Asif, there was an article published, I think in New York Post or something like that. Between Apple, Facebook, and Google, 16 billion passwords got leaked. Billion with a B. So essentially, there's an audit that some third-party security company did this amongst these three companies. And this is public news, and nobody can do anything about it. So this is the largest password hack in the history of password hacks by a distance, all right? And they're suspecting that the AI hackers actually used AI to hack these passwords from these supposedly untrackable or unhackable firewalls. So if you think there are good actors using AI for for good causes. There are bad actors using the same AI that these good hackers have, and they know how to use it better. So we have to be prepared for all these scenarios going forward and take this AI thing pretty seriously.
The spectrum is really wide. And Nick, what do you think? Like,
Yeah, so there are a few models out there that have removed guardrails. So there's a platform called Hugging Face. It's literally called Hugging Face. You can look it up. It's like GitHub for AI models. There's thousands of models on there. Now, the cool thing about AI is it's very robust open source community. Okay. A lot of people out there just doing stuff. You know what? You can go raise 20 million for your startup, and then tomorrow you did your launch, you launched on Product Hunt. A week later, your entire app has been made by a bunch of researchers, published on GitHub for free on an open source license, MIT Apache license with commercial use. It happened to Glean. Glean, I forget what their valuation is, huge. And there's literally a GitHub repo with the exact, it does everything the same. The name of the repo slips my mind, but this happens, and so these fine-tuned models, the bad actors are also using the same tools we have access to, and frankly, they have financial incentive and are far better organized than we are, and most of our corporations are. A lot of these ransomware, they call it APTs, Advanced Persistent Threats. Yeah. These groups out of North Korea, China, that are state sponsored. I mean, they're getting country level federal funding from their country to build hacking groups that attack the U.S. I mean, come on. And these groups are, even Anonymous is fairly well organized, although they're gray hat-ish. They're not fully black hat or white hat. They're very well organized. And so these guys have all access to all the same tools we do. They have access to DeepSeek, which was free and open source at one point. And they're fine-tuning their own models for their own nefarious purposes, right? And we're over here sitting on our hands and trying to figure out on a board meeting whether or not we should be using AI. And the CISO is sitting like that little dog in the meme with the house around him or her on fire. And he's saying, everything's okay, board. Everything's fine, board. You know what I'm saying? So we don't have time to waste. You're going to get left behind and your entire house is going to be on fire if it's not already on fire.
Everything's fine.
Everything's fine. Exactly. I mean, this is a wake-up call, okay? We don't have time to sit here and dilly-dally because the bad guys are out there using tools, and we used to say, well, they take 5 steps forward. Every time we take 1 step forward, they take 5 steps forward. Every time we take 1 step forward now, if your security team's not using AI, your threat actors are taking 100, if not 200, if not 1,000 steps forward, okay? And they are on you like white on rice. They have agents that are constantly attacking the surface of your network looking for holes. And these things don't sleep. They don't need PTO. They don't have mental health issues. They don't need food. They don't need smoke breaks. They are always on.
I think one thing.
Yeah. Hit the button.
See, I think, Nick, you bring up an important point. I do want to add one thing, though, which is very important for people to know, right? We talk a lot about these digital hackers who are more focused on hacking network security, data security, and what have you. But I think slowly it's also starting to creep up in the real world. So as an example, I was talking to one of my friends, and he was talking about a medical billing and procedural analytics provider, if you will. I can't say the name, but when they got hacked, there were close to 5 million individuals whose lives were at stake because their social security and medical records were all hacked. literally, not metaphorically. So slowly but surely, and I think what is this company? I forget the name of the company. A very large supply chain company got hacked, and they could not sustain the hacking. That they started getting large orders and large supplies. Literally, they have to file a bankruptcy in less than a couple of months. So these hacking are no longer just digital hacking. It is impacting the physical world, right? So metaphysical, whatever concept you want to use, we've got to be really careful and identify these right away, to Nick's point, and take this very seriously, because very soon people's lives, people's companies, people's revenue or salaries could be at risk very soon.
We got to get rid of passwords. To Arvind's
Yeah.
passwords.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. That's it.
Passwords.
Say it again. Say it again, please. Say it again.
Passwords got to go away.
Password stuff.
Passwords got to go away, man. We got to get rid of these. I don't even want pass phrases. I don't want anything that's stored in a database that allows someone else access to my account if they get to it. Like it's like the candy at the center of a Tootsie Pop. You know, like if they give enough licks, they're going to get to that database and they're going to unsalt my password that was hashed like 5 million times with SHA 1 billion. And all of a sudden now they have access to my password. And now all of my medical information is compromised. My social security number is compromised because the IRS and the Social Security Administration use that as a way to identify and authenticate me, right? Like we have to devalue these things that are, they're almost like single points of failure. You know what I'm saying? Like we need to be smarter about how we verify the identity of someone who's not standing right in front of us, right? There are so many ways. Send me an email and I'll click on a link. Well, maybe your email is compromised. Okay, fine. If it's sensitive enough, like banks should be employing two-factor authentication. Like everybody has access to a free app called Authenticator. Okay, there's one made by Microsoft. There's one made by Google. Okay, you can easily implement that. Like two-factor, three-factor. Like you can use biometric.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you have an app on the phone, you can use Apple's Face ID and add biometric. Now you have 3 factors of authentication. Like we need to get rid of the password.
So sounds like we need to talk about hardware at this point. Look, this is just my personal fascination, right? But before I get into the hardware piece of it and describe a little bit more of what's happening in this tech talk, is that if you are a military guy, who's about to transition into a new career, if you are a profession, if you're a guy who's a subject matter expert of a profession, you have to think like a military guy who already has a subject matter expertise, because everybody here has a subject matter expertise and they're driving the conversation through their subject matter expertise. Really, if you're a military guy or just somebody who's thinking, I need to do something because of AI, please do not forget your subject matter expertise. Do not jump into thinking that you're ready to just change clothes and go into the different jobs, right? That's what military guys did. I did that myself. I did that 10 years ago when I thought, well, I'm just going to hang up the uniform and from now I'm a civilian, so I have to go do something the civilian does. No, we all have our subject matter expertise. Bring that. That's so valuable, because if you don't bring it, you cannot. Between me and Nick, we're not going to talk about supply chain. We're not. I've worked in supply chain for a very long time. I've worked in manufacturing for a very long time. I cannot talk manufacturing supply chain like the supply chain experts can. If you are a person who's looking to jump into AI, it's not jumping into AI. It's bringing AI to you, right? Rather than going out there finding that AI all over the place, right? You have to bring that AI to your subject matter expertise. Once you do that, you have these capabilities that is highly lacking right now. It's so lacking. And what do I mean by that? That Irvin mentioned earlier about project managers, right? Business analyst, that analyst capability that you have. If you don't bring that to AI conversation, AI is going to miss out on all these capabilities, right? And that's what's happening. And that's what Sam Altman, Eric Schmidt, and everybody's going around the universities talking about. These are the things you have to study because there are subject matter experts that are lacking in this whole AI discussion. The reason AI is going this way or that way is because of the subject matter experts. The people in the process is missing, right? We're delivering technology that are not safe. We're delivering password instead of passkeys. We're delivering technologies, hardwares that doesn't have the security measures because there's people missing in that process of delivery, right? So you really have to think about, like, I'm talking to a military guy, I'm going to tell any subject matter expert, whatever your subject matter expertise is, you have to start there. Don't start with AI. AI is nothing but data. And this is where we get to those tech talk about, like, what's happening with password, what's happening with data. Because as a subject matter expert, you are using technology. And if you are using technology, every time you do anything, it's data, right? So that biometric information that you use to log into your enterprise systems, that's using data. That's a lot of data that is super valuable to somebody who says, you know what? I bet they didn't spend enough money on hardware to keep that biometrics chips away from all the other chips. And guess what? Apple literally has a specific chip that does your biometrics for Apple. So if your system gets hacked, the last thing that a hacker can hack to your iPhone is that chip specifically. And that chip is almost destroyed by the time they get to it, right? It's so important for us as a user to understand our devices, to understand our hardware, how things are moving inside of our devices, what sort of anomalies do you have to look out for to say, my system is not being controlled by me right now. And it's not a system glitch. It's literally somebody trying to steal my information because somebody left their RDPs open, the remote desktop protocol, right? Somebody's remoting in. It happens all the time. It happens all the time. If you don't know about it, it's because you haven't found yourself in a position where you had to get laid off because your whole supply chain company went down the drain because of some unsecured data, right?
Yeah.
Not all companies can survive all the cybersecurity attacks. And ones that you don't know about is because they're not big enough, right? Big ones survive, but they take a lot of hit. You can imagine Experian, the credit card information company, right?
Oh, yeah.
Took hit. They can survive, but maybe they can't. Who knows? We'll see. So there's a lot of these things that are happening out in the world that we don't know about. And Nick brought up something very important, which is the passionate topic of mine, is that how do we get rid of password? How do we move into a world where maybe better passkeys are the ways, or not at all, right? But there's multiple alternatives to the passwords, right? Because these passwords are just kind of stored in a database. So if I can access that database where those passwords are stored, and if I can look at the value, and this is where AI comes in, that those values all have some digits behind it. So if I can match that digits using AI and brute force it, which is to try 1 billion lines of passwords and try that over and over, with AI, maybe I can hack it in 8, 9, 10 days of trying, versus 10 years ago, it would have taken 80 years and 90 years to hack it. Right?
There's a really cool for the nerds out there.
Yeah, let's nerd out, bro.
You can go Google password entropy.
Yeah.
So go look it up, and I bet you it's like that calculator is probably out of date because it's not accounting for the ability of AI to go through an entire rainbow table, or
Yeah. I showed a chart. It only goes up to, like, out of 10, it's already in the 5th degree, right? We are already working on the 10th degree of brute forcing, right? So computing powers on your laptop is getting so much more sophisticated than the database computing power, right? So even if you have a rainbow table in your computer, you can work it on your computer, right?
Yeah, I have one chip, and you can quantize a model, which basically means, like, kind of shrink it and reduce its need for, like, compute and power, and you can run it on your laptop. I got models running on my laptop right now. I have a MacBook Air. An M1 chip. Yeah, I mean, it's the new Air, but it's just an M1 chip. It's not anything powerful.
Yeah.
And I'm running models locally. I got Llama running locally. But you're absolutely right. These things are getting so powerful, and these are edge devices, right? This is edge AI, right? And then you got what do you call it? NVIDIA coming out with digits, like, it's this, like, tiny little box. It looks like a
Jetson Orin, size of a Raspberry Pi.
Yeah, that one too,
It costs less than $500 if you buy the cheapest one.
That's it. Now you're gonna have edge.
Good and bad guys.
Now you got models sitting at the edge. If I steal that box, your model's gone. You know what I'm saying?